What is going on, people? It's Matt from Liquid Loans. In this video, I thought I'd bring someone on because, no pun intended, but I feel this guy has flown under the radar. If you like moon math, you are going to love this guy, his content. So before we get into it, health and safety first. Have your moon boots firmly secured before watching this stream. So with no further ado, let me intro Mr. Gun Hexadian. What is going on, man? Welcome to the stream.
Thank you for having me. And actually, to settle this one, because I know it's funny. I mean, if Hexicans can pun on Mexican, Hexadian on Canadian, that's the basis of that one.
I get it. Now I get it. So how do you say it again?
Hexadian, like
Hexadian.
Canadian. Just drop the can for hex, like you drop the M for hex for hex.
Original. Yeah. I like it. I like it, man. There's going to be more people now changing their nationalities to some sort of hex, hex twist on it. But listen, man, thanks for coming on. I really enjoy your content. You're putting out some great content on your channel. It's grown, I think we just talked about, to 1,300 subscribers in the last couple of weeks, which is amazing. For the people that don't know who you are, maybe you could give us a quick bio, or maybe even a long bio and background about yourself and how you got into crypto and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you, Maddie. I just want to say it's awesome being on this channel. I've watched it for quite a while. I saw it when it was first coming out with its first episode. So I've really kind of flattered to be on here. Did not ever expect this kind of attention or engagement. A little bit of background about myself, though. So a lot of the community is like, who is this guy? Why has he got these explanations? And I have kind of appeared out of nowhere with quite a big opinion. So to kind of throw this way back, my bio is not exactly traditional. To put it into simpler terms, when I was 2 years old, I was programming Betamax to record Star Trek, but I couldn't speak or wasn't potty trained. So computers have always been my jam, and so is mathematics. So, I mean, I was 8 years old when somebody taught me bed mass on the back of a beer coaster in a bar, and I started making my own homework at school. So that's where I come from in this. And then when it came to high school time, I was late for class, forgot my calculator, came into class, had a complete crank of a teacher. I thought she was just had it with me, finally dragging me off to detention for being late. I get tossed into a room full of a bunch of other kids with calculators and pencils going, oh, great, what is this? University of Waterloo in Ontario, they do a math competition every year. And competition's pretty simple, multiple choice, high-end mathematical functions. 1 point for answering it correctly, 0 points for not answering it, and -2 if you answer it wrong. Have at her. I had to borrow a pencil and some paper, had no calculator, and I got first place in the school.
Wow.
Yeah, so mathematics savant, but then life goes sideways. So before I could take up the scholarship or even finish high school, health problems got in the way. Honestly, a little bit of depression, and life didn't start actually getting back on track until the middle of the pandemic. Locked in all by myself for a long time. Had to start looking for new way of life, kind of reinvent the way that I look at the world, and try and find some actual meaning, something to grab onto. And I wish I could say I was one of those proud people at this point that got into sci-vive or whatever and had their life saved, but no. So, I mean, during this time, I got out of computers just as Bitcoin was coming out, thought it was a scam because I understood the programming, I understood the encryption, but I didn't understand liquidity pools. Where could I get the money from? So didn't want to touch it. Of course, one of those stories, could have gotten 100 coins for $50. So as I'm changing my life and working towards actually living by better spiritual principles and trying to focus on living a better life, funny wouldn't it be that in this act, I'm meeting other people that are like-minded, and then I meet a Hexican. So this is how I got turned on to Richard Heart and Richard Heart projects. So November 10th, just this past year, not even 6 months ago, I bought a little bit of Hex for FOMO. Honestly, just FOMO got me in. I watched the bump the next day and then the crash, and I had to know more. I was bitten. I had the bug. And the more I watched Richard Heart and saw the values that he brings to like it's so much different than just capitalism. Like he's actually trying to bring back principles and values. Just the fact that he won't spend a single dollar on advertising, that it's attraction rather than promotion. I mean, that's amazing all on its own, and the community gathers behind him, and then they bought the broadside of a NASCAR. So
Yeah.
I mean, this caught me. So then I started diving into the mathematics, and now I'm starting to look at the programming a little bit more. And I'm using a lot of old skills from the 90s, Borland C++ and HTML and Cisco certification, learning TCP/IP protocols. That's the traditional stuff. And I got into that because, a movie called Hackers back in the 90s made it all look cool. And I was like, well, I'm good with computers anyway. Get into it, find out just how tedious and boring it is. So I wouldn't have ever considered myself an actual programmer, because usually to me, a programmer can sit down and write all the code, all the functions, and plan it all out. I'm more of a script kiddie. I can show up, see a code, possibly do improvements on it, but I'm just as likely to create an exploit while I'm trying to improve it. So yeah, diving back into this, I'm full of self-taught, full of myself, full of opinion. I generally have a lot of interest in anything that I find exciting for growth of technology. So when I got into this, the idea that technology back in the 90s, web 2.0, the whole .com boom, it wasn't for me. I kind of saw it how fake and empty, nothing was getting produced, and didn't interest me. But web 3.0, this really does. This community interests me. So it's easy to have passion because I'm engaged intellectually and I'm engaged spiritually by this community.
I mean, that's really interesting that obviously everyone's got their own story, but you've from a bad place, I guess, like you said, the pandemic, from being, a lot of people were going through hard times. Obviously, people were off work and what's not, but then you use that time to create an upward spiral. And that's when you started finding out about crypto in general. So you hadn't bought anything up until this year. Is that right?
Well, like I said, November 10th, 2021, I still didn't actually even know there was a difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum at that point.
Wow. And now you're deep down the rabbit hole. Your videos on price and, your moon math is really intriguing. Obviously, you're not pulling it out of thin air. You're doing the arithmetic behind it. What do you think Pulse could do in the short term and long term?
So Pulse is amazing for a lot of reasons that are hard to put into any mathematical terms for me. So, I mean, people want to hear the moon math. So I'll start there with a couple of things, and then I'm probably going to go to an economic kind of thesis as to the value I see. But from a moon math perspective, I've been toying around a little bit with Metcalfe's law. So simple principle that the value of a network is equal to the square of the users, and closer it should be half the square of the users. So that value is traditionally for a telecommunications network. So a certain style and class of network. But the idea of the growth of the formula is like a Fibonacci sequence. The idea that the parts of the whole will make it greater and make it grow larger in its next springs, at least along this S-curve model. So the value inherently in the number of users is greater than the number of users. So this has been true in telecommunications. I've been toying with it a little bit in the terms of Pulse and crypto. So I've seen some formulas. Somebody came up with something trying to directly relink the price to Metcalfe's law in Bitcoin. But I've looked at it in a little bit of a different angle, where I started examining the size of the liquidity pools in relation to the number of users. So this is where I found occasionally a small weird correlation with Metcalfe's law, that if you scale it further and divide it by 10 for the value. So in some assets, I have to do a lot more math because I work a day job doing construction. I don't have the time for all this, but where I've kind of pegged it for a few assets, it looks like 10 cents to the dollar is almost a rough dollar peg to the value point on Metcalfe's law. So instead of dividing by 2, divide by 20, and it kind of scales it for the crypto on just the assets I've been looking at. So what this means is I find it very interesting that roughly for a price point of 1/100th of a cent, the sacrifice value, that PulseX at 140,000 users was able to produce almost $1 billion worth on Ethereum, about 980 million or 975 million. So then when I did this scaling and look at 140 users and do the math, square it and cut it back, the value works out to, at the 10 cents to the dollar, to exactly what was sacrificed and raised for the PulseX. So as I see the network in the layer 1, if this were to hold true, how long do you think we would take us to get to 1.4 million users? 140,000 were worth that. 1.4 million users could potentially generate, by that math model, just shy of $100 billion of liquidity for the asset, which liquidity pools are not constant. Like the K value holds them constant in mathematics, but people can provide liquidity or remove liquidity in that sense without buying and trading against it. But still, this is more like looking at a 200-point moving average. I'm trying to find just a base trend that can be either just above or below, something that seems to lock in. This would suggest, by also the same calculations that I look, if there's roughly 1.4 million, roughly 1.4 million Ethereum locked indexes, then that means that the Ethereum network indexes locked value right now, it's what, 3,500 or something. What is the price for Ethereum? 3,000. All right. If that's the case, then the value should be roughly 4.3 billion. Yeah, roughly 4.3 billion. What did I do to the tab? There we go. So, again, along with the same logic and thinking that 100 billion, or just shy of 100 billion, 970 billion is roughly a little more than 20 times larger than that. Well, that would mean that the price would 20 times larger, 20 times smaller, 20 squared, 400. That'd be a 400x theoretically from the sacrifice value of 1/100th of a cent. So 4 cents potentially could be the price if we could get up past 1.4 million users in this kind of thinking with Metcalfe's law. So there's some moon math for you guys.
Wow, 4 cents, a lot of people. So that's for Pulse, right?
That's for Pulse. That's just for the layer 1 for Pulse. Then the interest in a layer 2 or the adjacent.
Sorry, before we go any further, do you have any time frames about that, or
okay?
roughly?
So that's where, what do you set a reasonable expectation to hit that? Like, that's where I do see the network is completely capable of hitting every one of those moon targets that people have. The question is when. So the way I'm looking at this is getting back down to a little bit more of an economic and programming standpoint. So Ethereum, if you look at its price over time on look into hex.com, look into Solana, look into BNB, all those networks seem to follow a regular growth pattern. And so just in that, it's pretty safe to assume that a good stable network that has cheap gas would do the same for a layer 1 within the same relative time frame. Now, the things that I add to the potential for this network is the fact that when you look at Ethereum, it launched bare and empty, like Field of Dreams, build it, they will come. And they came and they built and more came. So now BNB, I'm not sure if it launched with like a DEX or something in it at least already, but for the most part, they launch relatively bare, these networks. And PulseChain is going to launch a full ecosystem to value reinforce. So, I mean, if I can talk about other projects, I mean, you've got Power City, which is a construction company pulling all the devs. You have Liquid Loans targeting the high-end users for, liquidity and asset appreciation, the real money understanding people of how loans work. You've got people building wallets going after the new users. You've got Richard Hart doing a free airdrop 1-to-1 to scoop up all the Ethereum users. You've got cheap gas fees to compete with BNB. Then you've got then you've got 2 NFT projects coming. Mintra, which has already got its software in the beta test, and it's got a buyback and burn function like PulseX. And then you've got NFT on Pulse coming. So, like, the utility that is already packed and ready to launch on this, Like, I almost imagine that, you know, you have to build your network and then frame it up like you're building a truck and then get it on the highway and get it moving. Well, we've been doing all that on top of Ethereum on the highway, and we're about to jump off like a transformer, like Bumblebee, do a somersault in the air, land on the ground, and drive ahead. This is the way I see that playing out. So, I mean, another beautiful thing is back to liquid loans. I haven't put enough time into this for the fact that the tokenomics didn't have a lot for me to sink into, but the value of a stable coin. A lot of people underappreciate the value of the soundback dollar back in the 1960s before Nixon killed it for fiat. I mean, the original idea was that if you had $1, you could take it to a bank somewhere and trade it for some gold. It was a receipt for a portion of gold for something you knew was valuable that you could use for something. And by that guarantee, it had value. You could trust in it. But the moment they start being able to print it willy-nilly, it loses its value. Inflation happens. And then again, you've got the contract with Binance that can produce USDC. And they're, when you actually look at it, they're not, pardon?
Coinbase produces USDC Circle,
Coinbase, sorry. So their contract, actually, they're not even sound backed. Like, their coin can be produced in greater quantity than the actual fiat that they're holding. Which was not the intent of it. So, I mean, again, you have the same inflationary technique, but now you have an actual agreed upon market value of Pulse like you would have for gold, and then it backs the value of the USDL, which is in a finite supply, at least in relation to the contracts and to the Pulse. So this, I don't even know how to put into words or into mathematical terms the financial value of a trustable, sound-backed stablecoin. So all these economic principles, like when you build something better than everyone else, like bread was great. You get baguette, you get a French bun, you get a croissant, but then somebody came along and they sliced the bread. Everyone had to have it sliced after that. And Richard Hart has come and just sliced the blockchain. That's the way I see this.
So do you think, obviously, all those things that you're just stacking on top of each other, right? You're talking about, do you think it's just going to be like overnight people just run into, it's going to be like, you know, gold rush into PulseChain, or do you think it's going to take time, a bit of a slow burn?
So I think it's going to be absolutely chaos and hard to predict at first. But my intuition, my thought is that if you'd asked me this earlier, it would be a much different answer, because you've had so many different emotions in the market. You've had people get in, get ready, get FOMO, anticipation. They've gone almost through the 5 stages of grieving, waiting for the network to come out. And in that, they've been producing hype. They've been spreading the word. So lots of anticipation, but even that anticipation is going through the 5 stages of grieving, waiting for this network to come out. So basically, I think it'll be a little rush at first, because there'll be a lot of disbelief going, well, this is a scam too. It can't possibly be live. It's not 2025. And then there'll be a little lull, and then people will start diving in from probably like that 10x that I'm talking about. And the number of users has probably been sitting on the sidelines since PulseX. Like, well, I mean, it's probably not grown that much, but you look at July, it was what, 60,000? 70,000-ish. It more than doubled roughly by the time we got to PulseX in February.
So are you talking about Telegram group?
Well, I'm talking about the number of sacrificers for PulseChain versus the number of sacrificers for PulseX. That indicates the number of users with interest waiting to get into PulseChain, in my opinion.
A lot of people missed Pulse sacrifice.
But so that number had grown from 60,000 to 140,000 waiting to get into Pulse by the PulseX sacrifice. So, I mean, that number could have easily doubled again to like 300,000 people. So
I'm not even sure it's 60,000. I think it's around 40,000 sacrifices.
Was it that small? Was it that small?
I think it's around 40. Now, it depends. Obviously, people in the comments let us know. But obviously, some people pulled their money together. But I think it's around 40,000 wallet addresses that sacrifice for PulseChain.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's where I wasn't around for that. I was around for the PulseX sacrifice. So I'm like, I was there. I remember these facts. Thank you for correcting me. So, I mean, still, just the point is the amount of users that grew from July, August, September, you know, a little bit over half a year. That was a large growth in users, and we've still been waiting since February, another 3 months. So, I mean, we're going to see a lot of users that have been sitting back waiting for market launch to see that this project is ready who didn't even bother to get into the sacrifice, and even more users that are on standby that just missed the sacrifice and have been following the hype from the community. So, yeah, I do believe we're going to see a lot of action coming in that should balance the people that are trying to take value out at first. But I mean, long term is more how I try to look at the assets. I try to imagine, looking at it in a year or 3-year or 10-year terms. So, I mean, I do see Pulse having a large wave coming to get in that have missed it, the excitement of a brand new project. Then I see a little bit of a slowdown, like a drop off again. And this is where I think PulseX will kind of show up for its price and be like, well, look, even during a correction, we're going up because of the burn.
Yeah.
And so at that point, though, I think the network will start to get its value back again, and we'll see even more use in Hex. So, I mean, when we start looking into the past a year, into the 2-year time frame, I see the network balancing out. And although layer ones traditionally do better than any others, with the buyback and burn in PulseX, I think that'll make up for the buy pressure missing from being a layer one. So you'll see those assets appreciate relatively close to each other, priced together. And then the real interest in Hex, the fact that Hart's Law, the moment there's liquidity bonding PulseX and Hex, the value will be transitorily siphoned off into Hex, which means no longer will people ever be able to make the comment, but it's a Ponzi scheme. Someone else has to buy to make the price go up. Not once it's priced in PulseX. So this is where I see so much value where, I mean, this isn't just a program. This is literally, and I'm so glad the FCC is in a coma. I can't say this enough. Hush, my little baby. Like, stay asleep, FCC, because, I mean, this is better than the World Bank.
Yeah.
This is completely digitally insulated. It's a whole new ecosystem of a brand new economy.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about an ecosystem, I'm not sure if you've seen the video, and I probably sound like a broken record to people that watch this stream, but my colleague Jexxa, who works at Liquid Loans too, head of IT and security, he did a video on his channel. He's got a video called HexSafe, and his video is called WonDefi, WON. And basically, this whole new ecosystem that's about to, become into fruition very soon is we don't need anyone else, right? Because we have the substrate, PulseChain, cheaper, faster, more environmentally friendly. We have the DEX, PulseX. We have the savings account, Hex. We have the central bank, the borrowing and lending protocol, Liquid Loans, on top of other protocols. You don't need anything else, right? And if you're holding parts of all this, every time someone uses Liquid Loans, if you're a loan staker, you're getting fees. If you're a Hex staker, right, you're earning interest the whole time, or sorry, inflation the whole time. If you've got part of PulseX, and every time the buy and burn function happens, obviously deflationary, your price is going to be bought up, and it's going to help. The buy and burn is going to help with price. Every time someone uses the PulseChain network, 25% of fees are burned. So it's not just about having assets like buying Dogecoin or Litecoin and hoping it's going to go up. Obviously, these assets will have price appreciation as well as volatility, but you're also they're all yield-bearing assets too. So I completely reiterate what you're saying. It's so exciting that we've got this whole new ecosystem, a whole new era that's literally upon us, within 4 weeks, 4 more weeks, wink, wink. And it's just going to be crazy. So what's your play going to be when mainnet goes live?
That's where I just... I had to be careful. Sometimes I fantasize and I stop being happy and stoic with my place in the world, that I have found such a wonderful thing and have an opportunity. And I wish I was already rich so I could get right into all of the facets of PulseX. Like, I've been debating back and forth on whether it's worth it for me to provide liquidity based on the fact that I'm such a small fry. It could actually be more harmful to me in my taxes. Then it could be beneficial. But I mean, right off the bat, what is exciting me is the party token, which isn't going to be there in PulseX. It's a placeholder.
PRT token, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the single-sided staking pools, plural. And that's why somebody asked me earlier in my videos, like, why is this pools if it's staking? Like, I can't find the staking. It's not called staking. Well, traditional staking, you get more of the asset. And this, you don't get more of the same asset, you get more of something else. And that's where, well, what do I get? Well, the community has to agree and vote on which assets can be selected there, but then you're going to have your choice. There could be 1, there could be 2, there could be 5, there could be 10 different things to pick from. And you could put all of your PulseX into 1, or you could split it between 2. So you have literally a kid in a candy shop option of brand new tokens coming to the system, and you get to claim them through PulseX and do it safely and earn your yield, and it creates stickiness for PulseX. I think that is so beautiful, and I can't wait to play with it, because I can't wait to see the brand new weird crazy tokenomics that get come up with and get brought on there for me to play with. It's just it's a gateway drug. I mean, I shouldn't be that mean to it, but it gets me right into the crypto. So I am really excited to get into the single-sided staking. I mean, providing the liquidity, it seems really fun, and I've got some ideas maybe later down the road. I'm not so irked in. So my basic plan as a small fry that missed Pulse, honestly, is to thank my lucky stars. I got in a bunch of other sacrifices. I'm gonna have my Hex ready to bridge in the moment the bridge opens. When the network goes live, I'm going to trade a little P-Hex for a little bit of Pulse, and I'm not going to care what the ratio is, because I just want to have it done with, and have it said with. I'm going to go to freepulse.io. I'm going to collect some free Pulse, and then I'm going to be glad that I got some IMD. I'm going to be glad that I got liquid loans. I'm going to be glad that I got Mintra, because I'm going to be able to stake all of these, and I'm going to be able to get Pulse. So I'm going to be able to sit back, have those staked, and laugh. Have my PulseX staked and laugh. Have my little bag of Pulse I bought with some of my PX staked and laugh. When the bridge opens, get my eHex in, do a little more shopping with that value, and then take my leftover eHex and my leftover PX, pair them up, and throw them in the Hex pair, because I support that greatly. And I might even just take the smallest little fragment of PulseX and Hex and throw it into that pair, just because I support that. It's more of a statement than a financial gain.
Nice, man. Yeah, I think what you said is good. Needs to be reiterated. If you don't know what you're doing, you need to be a bit careful with LP, because obviously you can experience impermanent loss. But those single-sided staking pools are, unless you're stupid and you give your seed phrase away, you'll be fine with those, right? If you find ones with good APYs or good APRs, then you're gonna, they're kind of like dummy proof. If you want to know how they work, obviously you can, well, actually, I learned how to use those kind of pools on PancakeSwap. There's something called syrup pools, and it's the same kind of thing. So you take your cake token and you can stake it and then get, XY token or whatever, whatever token they're offering. And obviously there's different APYs that change all the time. But PulseX is going to be the same with better game theory. So the single-sided staking pools are going to be very tasty. Obviously, we're going to have to wait for the community to vote on those and see which ones they want to have. Liquidity providing, well, of course, we're getting half of the pair for free as well. So that's another interesting play. And like you said, you're going to be using liquid loans and Mintra and other places to stake and collect your yield. So, sounds like a full-time job, to be honest, doesn't it? When you get into it.
Yeah, you would think so. That's where a lot of people, they look at me and they're like, how are you doing this? Because I work a full-time job as well. And again, programming a VCR when I was 2 years old, like I figure out how to interface with this stuff in no time. I mean, really, to make my PulseX math sheet that everyone sees, it took 6 hours of energy drinks and arguing with Excel. And then it was done. So yeah, like really for me, what I described to you is going to take me 20 minutes. And then I'm going to put my stuff away and go to work and spend 8 hours putting mud on a wall and sanding. So yeah, but I mean, it has taken me half a year to get the level of knowledge, to have the confidence to know what I'm doing with what assets, so that I can quickly in 20 minutes go clickety click, click, click.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you have to definitely go down the rabbit hole with crypto. It's not something that you can just watch one video and get it, right? And in fact, when you get into crypto, it's like learning a new language with all this liquidity pools and dexes and sexes and all this stuff. So definitely you need to become au fait with all these terms. And then, I think you're a fast learner, obviously. So you've done really well. Is there anything that you're more excited about on PulseChain than another thing, or just the whole mainnet going live is what's tickling you?
Oh my. I mean, there's so many things that excite me. So, I mean, that's where, and it's not just the math and it's not just the numbers. Like you brought up the liquidity that you have to understand. Lately, a point I've been trying to drive home in some of my videos is market correlation. So the traditional markets, as much as we're a freedom movement of crypto and free expression, we're not connected to that. We're decentralized. Well, if enough of the same money, like, hey, I'm Warren Buffett and I buy equal amounts of the stock market and crypto, when I move my money, it'll have equal effects in both. So correlation has become very, very noticeable between the NASDAQ, SPX 500, and Bitcoin and Ethereum. And with that, even with the low volume trading in Hex, so nobody's actually pushing the price in there. It's just dragging by Hart's Law with a little bit that's paired in Ethereum. That is being really painful. So the most exciting thing for me about PulseChain is the fact that it's going to correlate Hex away from Ethereum and to a new project that's near its price floor that should be able to do well in a bear market. So I've been watching the Hex charts, like I said, since November 10th. I bought after the all-time high, and I've only seen more pain. I've been dollar cost averaging in, waiting for that. So that validation of I told you so for the last 6 months, I've been buying a falling asset is going to be my most exciting part of PulseChain. But next to that, really it's just going to be seeing who comes and uses it and what kind of viral exposure it gets. Like for me, the excitement will be when I hear Bloomberg talking about PulseChain, when I hear Tom Hanks mention he owns some PulseChain. Like for me, seeing that wave as we break the floodgates, that's going to be the roller coaster. It's going to have me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and like you said, that validation of knowing that you were there before anyone was really talking about it, right? Before any of the mainstream or before anyone with a platform was really talking about it. So I definitely feel you on that. Obviously, you're super bullish on Pulse, and I'm sure you're aware that there's a lot of EVM compatible chains, a lot of forks of Ethereum, and a lot have been touted as Ethereum killers, and most of them haven't killed Ethereum at all. Do you think PulseChain is that one that will be the Ethereum killer? Sorry, dude, your mic isn't working.
Hello?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I said no. No, I don't think PulseChain is going to be the Ethereum killer. I am still really bullish on it, but has anything killed Bitcoin? Governments, opinions, new networks? No. Slowed it down, taken from its value, taken from its hype, sure. Maybe even reinforced its value through growth and awareness, but no, nothing killed it. That's where I see Ethereum and PulseChain working in tandem. The same way that Hex and PHEX work in tandem. So they're going to be classic users in Ethereum that don't want to move over. And they're quite happy and content whales in there. And some new whales are going to want to compete. But your average Joe is going to have a much better time getting into PulseChain and competing. So you're going to have a little bit of a different client base. But again, you're going to have interactivity between assets, between concepts. And with that, no, I see them complementing each other over time. Like I do see us siphoning a whole bunch of value with the free airdrop, like trying to scoop up somewhere between 25 to 35% of their users just right off the bat because cheaper gas fees, the exact same assets. But in that, then, as other users come, like I really just see it more like a neck and neck competition. I don't see anything just taking out Ethereum because it would have to be a completely brand new technology, like holodeck chips in your hand, Web 4.0, boom. Then, okay, we can start talking about the death of Ethereum, like the way that PayPal is slowly dying.
Yeah. Gotcha. So what do you think in terms of like how close we are to the mainnet? Obviously, you do a lot of research on the mathematics side, but I'm sure you go out on Twitter and Telegram and find out the sentiment. Do you think we're really 4 weeks away, or what is your take on it?
So like I said, I was a coder back in the day. It's not my primary thing, but yes, I have managed to get my way into some chats where I can see the sentiment and even some of the devs. And I see it as a privilege to be in that chat. So I don't want to go gossiping about everything that I hear in there, but it's where I changed my tone recently in the last few days of, can you smell it? Can you smell the opportunity? PulseChain's around the corner. Basically, 420 yesterday marked what I believe might be the final release of sacrifice totals. Everything looks completely accurate. They're missing a script for ADA, for the ADA network to, they just need that script to be able to literally falsify any claims of, oh, you missed my sacrifice. I made it on this date. Can't you see? So just in the fact that they're 99.9% sure on the SAC totals, and that script is basically their reinforcement to be 100% sure all the math is right. So what are the hangups stopping launch? Pretty much just waiting to see if there's any complaints about the sacrifice totals, investigate them properly and thoroughly, because they actually care about what the consumers or the market or whatever, the community, however you want to address the people involved, they care about them. So they take the time to actually listen to every one of these complaints, even if it's, I clipped my toenails and suddenly my seed phrase stopped working. They still take the time to look into it. I mean, I don't know how deep they look into that one, but that's the hang up, is the fact that they care. And so the network's ready to launch today if they wanted. They could take a snapshot and launch it today. So in that, I think that anything later than May 15th is starting to get, FUD. I really believe that there's every reason it could launch in the first week of May or sooner. So I'm really, really bullish and excited for it, because I've played with testnet. There's no reason for a version 3. Everything's working. Everything is running pretty much flawlessly.
Yeah.
All the functionalities there. There's nothing left to do, really. And yeah, like literally the finishing touches and bows are all on it. It's just being able to make sure that if they had that script from ADA, they could launch tomorrow, but they're still just trying to generate it. I don't understand the mechanics entirely. Somehow they can see one address, but there's actually 11 addresses associated in tracking things there, and they can't see or generate the other 10 addresses just to be, extra sure that that they've got all the sacrifice totals. So do they even need that to launch? No, they could launch and just say, sorry about your luck. You didn't show up in all of our other hard 9 months of research on SAC totals. You're out of luck. We've satisfied at least 99.99% of our customers, but they're going for 100%. And that's what we're waiting for.
Well, man, people are going to love you. You come on here, you give Moonboy math, and you give the hopium with them around the corner, and especially with your background, like you said, you can read code, and how things going down, and things are looking quite slick, and we're close by. You said before about a 4-cent PulseChain, but you didn't give a time frame. Do you have a time? Obviously it's all speculation, but
so generally when people are pumping me, what I'm thinking of is that it is completely reasonable within a 365-day time frame. My generally first price estimate when people are asking me is like, all right, in a year, this is where I think it could easily be. And in a year, we could, of runtime, so not by December, but in a year of runtime, whenever launch is within 365 days, I don't see any reason we couldn't be at 4 cents.
Wow. Listen, man, this has been really good having you on. You've got some great content. Before you go, I'm going to start asking a quick fire question round to all my guests. So I've got 8 questions for you. You have to give me either 1-word answers or 1 sentence, no longer. Quick fire, put you on the spot, and then you're allowed to go
but
on
I'm
your way.
A rambling man.
Well, between 1 word and 1 sentence. So
all right.
Number 1.
Challenge accepted.
Best piece of advice you were ever given?
Wash my hands.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
First ever crypto you bought?
Hex.
Nice. Biggest teenage crush? Celebrity or non-celebrity?
All right. So a girl in my class. Yeah, Chantal, would he ever matter?
Number one piece of advice for no coiners.
Sorry,
Number one bit of advice for no coiners.
No coiners.
Someone
Not
who
familiar
holds
with the term.
no crypto.
Oh, get some.
One thing you haven't done yet, but you must do before you die.
Skydive.
Nice. Worst investment you ever made.
A 1989 Ford Tempo.
And last one, advice to your younger self.
The Bitcoin's not a scam. Give him the $50.
Listen, man, it was great to have you on. Where can people find out more about you? Tell us your social media platforms.
So, name Gun Hexadian. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Telegram. And you can find me on YouTube. It's where I care to be, and I even have a Gmail account at that name. So, I am at this point still talking to my fans directly. It's not like I have a whole lot of money here or an agent or any separation. So, I'm willing to engage with the community so I can learn more.
Sweet, man. You're an asset to the community. I appreciate you coming on, and you'll have to come back on, when PulseChain goes live, and we'll see how these predictions and our speculation has fared. Thanks a lot for your time, man.
Oh, thanks for having me here. Really appreciate it.
Take it easy, buddy. Listen, guys, definitely go and subscribe to Top Gun's channel. Like I said, great content, great moon math, great hopium, and the guy's not pulling figures out of thin air. He's got some math behind it, so definitely go and check it out. If you like videos like this, guys, do hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you're notified every time we drop new videos and content on the channel. You can also tap the like button, share the video with someone who you think it may benefit, and if you're watching the playback, drop a cheeky comment below for the algo. It does help us out. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.